Man, this segment pumps me up every time. It's fantasy versus reality. I had another 2-in-1 week. I'm basically stomping mud holes around here. I don't know how you did. I just know that I continue to be awesome.
I went 1-2, and again, for the second week in a row, a quarterback was within 20 yards of pushing me to 2-1. Oh, last week 3-0. Okay, the quarterbacks continue to blow it for me. I should be 5-4, but I'm 3-6.
Let me break down some scientific reasons why I don't care. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, my friend. But you know what? Me over here, just dominating. No excuses needed. Just whooping up on heinies and going about my business like I do. And that is why I, my friend, am now 6-3. In fantasy versus reality.
All it takes is a 3-0 week and an 0-3 week, and I'm right back in this and tying it up.
Well, it ain't happening this week because I feel real good about my picks. Let's get right into it. I'll go first this time. You went first last time when we were over there at Rivers Casino, and it didn't work out for you. So let's see if we can do a little mojo magic for you and get some winners for all of us here, because I'm starting to taste those beers you're going to owe me at the end of the season already. First thing first, the New York Football Giants. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jeff, they haven't shown you anything. They haven't done enough, and the one time they did do something good, the guy lifted his leg and got a 15-yard penalty. There's no way you're going to take him against Tampa Bay. But wait, I am. I don't think there's any way on God's green earth this Giants team, with the amount of talent they have, especially on defense, is going to start this season 0-4. Tampa Bay's a good team, but I think they've got some questions they need to answer as well. I think the Giants +3 is a great pick, even in Tampa. Give me Big Blue over the Big Buccaneers, and that's my first pick for fantasy versus reality.
The Buccaneers secondary cannot figure it out right now. You got Sterling Shepard, Brandon Marshall, Odell Beckham Jr. I'm just saying.
But Grimes is out there. Miko Grimes' husband.
Yeah, he's not enough.
Okay.
I know you got a bunch of rookies out there, or I should say younger players that are trying to do their thing. I like the pick of the Giants, which makes me feel good as a Buccaneer fan, because if I was having to pick games like you're picking games, everything, they don't call me Mr. Thursday Night here for a reason, okay?
They do call you Mr. Thursday Night for a reason. You have yet to even get close to a correct prediction on a Thursday night. Meanwhile, me over here, I was 3 points away from my actual prediction.
We're going to circle back to that Giants-Buccaneers game in its second here, but I do like the pick, even though I'm a Bucs fan. I don't feel confident about Tampa this week. My quarterback, this is how crazy fantasy football can get. If you're using standard PPR scoring for fantasy football, the difference between the 13th best quarterback this week and the 23rd best quarterback is 1 point.
Wow.
That's how close the difference is this week. So
10 spots, 1 point of difference.
Yes. So I thought, okay, let me take the 23rd best quarterback and hope he goes through projections. And the 23rd best quarterback this week is Houston Texan quarterback Deshaun Watson. When you hear it like this, all Deshaun Watson needs is 224 yards passing and a touchdown either way, and he goes over his 17.5 projected fantasy points this season. And that's pretty good. Think of it like this. Since Deshaun Watson has been the starter of the Houston Texans, he has never been lower than that when it comes to points scored in a fantasy football game. So we're going below expectations and below projections for Deshaun Watson, and he gets the Tennessee Titan defense. Although a good team, they've allowed the third most fantasy football points to quarterbacks this season. Watson has some big playability. He can run into touchdown for me. He can throw some touchdowns. Give me Deshaun Watson to go through his expectations, projected points in week 4.
All right, bear with me now, because you have actually set me up for my next pick.
Ooh.
Dwayne Brown ain't playing, buddy. He ain't playing. The left tackle ain't going to be there, all right? So the Tennessee Titans, who I believe are the best team in the AFC South, are going to beat up a young man who I like very much and I think will be a good starting quarterback in this league one day in Deshaun Watson. So you know who I'm taking? I'm taking the Tennessee Titans. I'm taking the Flying Hawaiian, Marcus Mariota, and the Tennessee Titans. I'm laying the 2 points in your house, Houston. Take that, J.J. Watt. You like that, don't you guys?
I like
Take
that a little bit.
Clowny. Look, man, I just, in all seriousness, I think Houston's going to be a good team. I think Deshaun Watson's going to be a great starting quarterback, or at least a very good. People throw great around a little too much, but I think the Titans are already the better team, and I think they're going to show it. They're going to run roughshod. They're going to be very strong defensively, and I wouldn't be shocked if Marcus Mariota is the far, far better quarterback in that matchup.
Well, let's do this. If the Titans are going to blow out the Texans and you think Tennessee's going to play well in the first half. So then I get a lot of fantasy points for Deshaun Watson.
Garbage time?
Little garbage time. They count all the same when it comes to fantasy football. I'm going to the running back position now, and I was back and forth and back and forth. I'll say the two running backs I was between. I was between Wendell Smallwood for the Philadelphia Eagles, who I think's got a great matchup for PPR leagues especially. But instead, I decided to go with Seattle Seahawks running back Chris Carson. If you told me by week 4 in fantasy versus reality I had to rely on Chris Carson to help me win some weeks, I'd say, man, how bad has it gotten in fantasy versus reality? But Chris Carson ends up being my guy this week. 14 points, dead even is his projection. So think of it like this. 2 catches, 60 yards on the ground, and a touchdown. That's all Carson needs. And last week when Thomas Rawls and Eddie Lacy were both active and healthy, combined Rawls and Lacy, 0 touches. They want Chris Carson to somehow be the guy in Seattle. He's a perfect spot right now. Play Chris Carson to get those numbers for you and continue to be that draft day, well, I don't know who he is, and then pick him up week 1 and help your fantasy football teams win games.
I agree with you so much on this one, it's ridiculous, because the fact of the matter is I've got Chris Carson in a bunch of my fantasy leagues, and I've had more trade offers for this kid this week than I can count, and I've held on to him, and I'm starting him in most of those leagues. I think you're right on the money with this guy. I think if the Seahawks are going to be successful, they have to run the rock. He's going to be the guy to do it. He's going to be like a baby beast mode. That's what I'm going with him. So I agree with you on that one. I think it's a really good pick. And now I go on to my final pick. Jets fans, I know this is the home for New York Jets football. And look, I've been the guy banging the drum telling you that they look like a real honest-to-God football team. But there's a team coming into town that doesn't like them, that knows they can beat them, that just ran roughshod over the Baltimore Ravens in London. And look, I don't care what Tony Baselli says. I don't care. All right? Doug Marrone is mad. Doug Marrone is not happy with this Jets team. Oh, hell no, I'm not saying to his face. He'd still whoop me like a redhead stepchild.
That's Saint Doug Marrone to you.
Yeah, Doug Marrone is going to have this team pumped up, ready to go. There's not a lot of sure wins on your roster when you're an NFL team. If I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm looking at this one as a sure win. I'm laying the 3 points with the Jags in New York against the Jets. I think Leonard Fournette has a big game. I think Blake Bortles does okay. I think he just needs to stay away from Jamal Adams, and he can have a great game. So give me the Jags minus the 3.
I told Chris Honorado earlier today on Big Board Sports, I'm looking forward to watching and listening to Jets Jaguars on Q103 because I don't know. This is a really hard game for me to figure out. I would think the Jaguars should beat him up, but I also thought the Jets weren't going to win a game, and they look great against the Miami Dolphins last week. So, interesting matchup for sure there between those two teams.
Do you want to know one more reason?
One more reason. Give it to
me. I believe that the Jacksonville Jaguars are a year or two ahead of the Jets on the same rebuild path. Solid coaching, good talent. The Jags have just been at it a little longer, and they've got a slightly better personnel across the board.
My final position here, it's either wide receiver or tight end, and I teased it a bit earlier. I wanted somebody from the New York Giants offense against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary. Who was it going to be? Was it going to be Evan Ingram? Was it going to maybe be somebody in the backfield? I was between Shepard, Marshall, or Odell Beckham Jr. And then I thought, let's not get cute. Let's not get fancy. Take the best player. Give me Odell Beckham Jr. here at the wide receiver position to exceed projected points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, in some leagues, if you're not playing in a PPR standard league, Odell Beckham Jr. is projected to have the most points of any skill player this week. But in PPR standard scoring on ESPN, he's projected to be the 5th highest scoring wide receiver. So we're looking at right around 16.7 for a projection. In other words, how about 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown? That's all Odell Beckham Jr. needs against Tampa Bay. I think not only will Odell Beckham Jr. be the highest scoring wide receiver, he's going to be right there with any running back or tight end. The Buccaneers, as you laid out there a little bit earlier, Levack, I don't think they look great. I kind of like them, but I know how bad the secondary is. They've allowed the most fantasy football points to wide receivers this season. Give me Odell Beckham Jr. to have a huge game for the Giants in fantasy football and for Big Blue.
Quick recap, I'm taking the Giants +3 at Tampa. I'm taking the Titans -2 at Houston, and then give me the Jags -3 at the Jets.
And I'm taking these 3 fantasy football players to exceed projected point totals in PPR standard leagues on ESPN and other leagues. Quarterback Deshaun Watson, he gets a matchup against the Tennessee Titans. See what Watts can do there. Running back, it was between Wendell Smallwood or Chris Carson. I decided to go Chris Carson. Let's see what the Seattle Seahawks running back can do there. And Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver for the New York Giants. Expect OBJ to be huge against Tampa Bay this Sunday.
Speaking of huge, that's what I expect my lead to be over you by the time this week is over in fantasy versus reality. One surefire bet for all of us, Buster Olney joins us next.